Hello and welcome to the Life Laundry Podcast. I'm Gemma.
I'm Chippy. We started at 10 o'clock. It's now 20 past.
What I would like
ranting I've done.
Yeah, Chippy's been ranting. I'd like everyone to take a deep cleansing breath in.
Oh, and do that thing. You know that thing? It always works. If you know anyone who does yoga, and they're always like, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders.
Yeah.
And it literally, as soon as any time I see it, I'm like a puppet. I'm like, oh my God, yes. Okay. It makes you feel instantly better. Can't remember what the third one is.
Anyone talking about the jaw being cleansed, for any pregnant laundrettes, a little rhyme I'd like to teach you for free. Relax the jaw to relax the pelvic floor, because they're linked.
Are they?
Your jaw, your pelvic floor, everything, just, I don't know how or why, something, I've forgotten it. But anyway, they're linked. So relax your jaw to release the pelvic floor. Helps in labour. I
would therefore have the best pelvic floor ever because I've got such a clenched jaw all the time. But my pelvic floor is not what it should be.
So I've started today with a cleansing breath because I feel like there's been a shift in the world. You know, when I was talking to you last week about the man in the van.
Yeah.
So a very similar thing happened to me last night. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this woman has had enough, because I don't think
Can you wait?
To me if I was a man.
This girl is on fire. I don't know what that is, but it just came to me.
So it was, you know, depending on what part of the world you lived in, right? I know this will apply to Chippy. We have had biblical amounts of rain over the past 2 or 3 days. So I needed to get some diesel. I am swapping my car. It's a shit heap. That is a completely different story. And
What? But that's the car of your dreams.
It is, but this is the thing. You shouldn't always get what you wish for. That's another lesson.
I've got another song. You can't always get what you want.
Yeah, so I will be swapping it for a hybrid because I don't want to go fully electric because it's our only car. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So our local petrol station has 6 pumps, 3 of which were out of use because that part of the petrol station was completely flooded. So only 3 pumps were in use. At this point, it's hammering it down still. So everybody, I'm going to draw a diagram. There will be a diagram on Instagram. I will put it there because I have access to Instagram. So if anyone can't visualize this, diagram will be coming your way. So visualize 3 pumps. There are, the middle pump has 1 car in it. All pumps have a car. The first pump to become free is the furthest pump, right? I can get around. So there's a queue behind me of people wanting to get petrol. It's going onto the road. It's causing an obstruction. I can get around to release that bottleneck. So I go around, release the bottleneck, pull in and park at the front, making sure, and this is key, making sure that I have left enough room for the driver sandwiched in the middle pump to get out.
Yeah.
Driver in the middle pump has a small, like, Fiat type car. Right?
A little bit more than there.
Huh?
Driver at middle pump.
Yeah. Right. He comes out, and I'm not judging him for this, but I'm just giving everybody context, right? He's about 19 years old. He comes out with a massive crate of like 24 Stellas.
Obviously.
Right. And then he's got an older dude with him. It looks about 40. He comes out with the same amount of Stellas. Right. Again, no judgment. Might have been going to a house party. Right. Just for context. Right. I'm in a car with all 3 of my children. We'd just been to Pizza Express. We'd had a very nice early dinner. Right. Homely.
Also,
go on.
Love Pizza Express. I don't think it gets enough credit. It's one of the only places I can take my feral children.
I know, it's great, isn't it? Like about 4 o'clock every night, all mums just descend with kids and just like, someone just pick something.
Local Pizza Express to us closed during COVID, but I did not know about this until we moved. Oh. And literally week 1 in my new house, I was like, right, let's just take the kids 10 minutes down the road, Pizza Express. And then I was like, it's closed. It's closed. Cancel plans. We're not moving anymore. So I hear this behind me. And I said to Thomas, who's in the passenger seat, is he all right? I think I've not left him enough room. So I move up again, like another meter. Like, at this point, my petrol cap isn't even in line
with the petrol pump. That's how much I've moved up at this point. I thought, I'll just wait for him to pull out, and then I reverse all the way back. So I take the middle pump, right? He makes a big song and dance out of getting out of this space, which is approximately 2.5 times the length of his car. He pulls up alongside my car. He winds down his window.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, we're on. So I wind down my window, and he goes, really? I couldn't hear him because it's pissing down. I'm like, what? I said, really? I'm going, what? Tom goes, he said, really? I'm like, right. And I was like, what's the matter? He went, really? Did you have to park there? I was like, it's a fucking petrol pump. He was like, I couldn't get out. I said, you're out now. Well, yeah, but it was really fucking difficult. I was like, don't fucking talk to me like that. Tom was like, calm down, calm down. And the dude next to him pissing himself laughing. And I said something along the lines of, because it was all a bit of a blur, you can't fucking drive, don't get in a fucking car. Like, I feel so intimidated by him. And you know when you're so intimidated, you can't think.
It's the proudest I've ever felt.
And I was just like, I was shaking because I was a woman, and I'm not proud of myself for this, because I do stick up for myself in situations, but I was shaking because I felt so intimidated.
I remember I was thinking about this the other day, how my mum had overtaken a moped driver who we commented was driving badly, right? But she overtook him. She gave him loads of space, and then pulled up to a junction, and he comes and he parks his moped and he sticks his head in her window, and she's like, I must have been about like 10. So my sister was about 12, 13. And he said, I've been a driver for 30 years and don't think that you can intimidate me. And I remember didn't have the mouth on me then that I do now. But I remember being like, I'm sorry, she's driven for longer than you, love, so fucking pipe down. B, you're sticking your head in her car window and she's got 2 little girls in the back and you're talking to her about being intimidating. Like, they don't think.
I know, and I'm not proud of myself for swearing in front of the kids, but I was so intimidated that I just attacked. You know, like, he swore first, he was aggressive first, and he was just really unreasonable. I don't know whether that revving was him genuinely not being able to maneuver his car or him just making it.
But also, I know that, I mean, I swear in front of my kids more than I should, but actually, you like, don't show your kids you being like, oh, sorry. Show your kids you being like, no, fuck off. Don't speak to me like that. Also, I slightly wish that what had actually happened is Thomas had just unfolded himself from the car and basically towered over this guy's van.
Wasn't it like the smallest car in Christendom? Like,
what was he doing? I can't.
But this is a funny thing, right? So then I'm still shaking in the car, and Johnny's like, you handled that really well, Mom. And I said, oh, I didn't. I swore. He went, no, you stuck up for yourself, because he was out of order. And Tom was like, still on TikTok. It's the whole thing going, yes, you were out of order. He was out of order. Sorry, he was out of order. And then the guy, because he'd modified his car, you know, when like they drop it, right? He couldn't get out. You have to drive through the flooded bit. He couldn't get out. So I'm trying not to laugh. And I said to them, look, I'm not getting out of my car till he's gone out of the thing. I don't know. He could be anybody, right? You know. Anyway, so then I got out of the car after we managed to navigate his way through the puddle. And then this like big Volkswagen estate just went into that space that he just dramatized getting out of like that.
Yeah.
So like, this is it. It's not me. Definitely not me.
No, him drive. What a twat.
So going back to what Chippy was ranting before, she said what she was ranting about affected her whole day yesterday, and it affected my whole evening last night, because I was like questioning myself. Was I the, you know, when you think back in retrospect, you're like, was that me? Did I do something wrong? Was I driving really badly? But do you know what I have noticed ever since I've driven the car that I do, which is a Land Rover Discovery?
Yeah, I was going to say,
I get treated so differently by men, really. maybe, but mainly by men. They have a preconceived idea about the sort of person that is driving that car. And the number of times that, you know, I've been driving down the road, and one particular time driving down the M25, and some dude in a furniture van got annoyed because I wasn't driving fast enough in the slow lane. I was doing like 70, which is the speed limit, FYI, man in the furniture van, tried to sideswipe me.
It's none of your fucking business how
Yeah,
fast.
but he tried to sideswipe me, and me and Tom were in the car, and it was like, Tom was like, what the hell? And then he got in front of me and slammed his brakes.
Ugh.
It was odd. It's odd. So that's another reason why I am genuinely, one of the genuine reasons why I'm swapping the cars, because I've never been treated like this as a driver. And I think it's the type of car.
I was going to say, Land Rovers, I think, are inflammatory cars. Definitely. And I think, I'm trying, I keep getting caught speeding. So.
Well, I've never had a speeding ticket. I'm like one of the most careful drivers ever. Obviously, we all make mistakes. Everyone messes up all the time. But I just thought, if I was like a man in my white van and I had some big work boots on, there is no way you can tell me he'd have done the same. No. It wouldn't have happened.
No. And I hate that. It is really annoying to...
It was almost like he'd had a really bad day and he just saw the first person to take it out on, and it just
was. Do you know what?
Was it because I'd been to Pizza Express?
Yeah.
Oh.
If he'd known that, he would have been very nice to you. It is because he couldn't get his shitty little souped up car out, and he had a mate in his car.
Maybe.
And so to make it not look like he's actually just incompetent,
he blamed it on the woman in front of him.
That's what it is. Men who can't drive, who think they can drive better than you. It's like one of the few things I'm good at, although I do get caught speeding. But I get caught speeding, it's attention deficit disorder. I literally, it's always, I'll be going at 42 in a 40.
In a 20.
Yeah. Or like 39 in a 30. I'm not doing crazy speeds. And I've done my speed awareness course, so I know why that's a dangerous speed. It's not that I'm being thoughtless about it, but if I'm going at that speed, I'm like, oh, my brain is doing other stuff.
There's something that I want to talk about today.
Oh.
And I think it's quite intellectual for us all as a collective to ponder upon, actually. So you'll all know the journey that I've been on recently with Taylor Swift. I've come out the other side, everybody, right?
I didn't know where that was going, and I was like, God, we haven't caught up in ages if this is going to be about thing. But yeah, we know about that journey, yeah.
So I have been watching a drama, that's the only way that I can describe this, on social media, that I would like to extrapolate out to just social media, famous people in general, right? So what happened was, I'm going to keep this very brief. What happened was the pre-sale tickets went on sale on Tuesday for Taylor Swift, and it was only for American fans, and you had to sign up for a pre-sale code. Not everybody got one. They had to log in at like 10 a.m. and there was people on TikTok lives trying to get their tickets. I have never seen such it was carnage, right? There was people logging in and they were about to buy their tickets, and then all of a sudden it was like, sorry, these tickets no longer available. When I say these people had seconds, they genuinely had seconds to choose their tickets and get them and check out. So much so that people were panicking and just clicking tickets and buying like tickets for like $1,000 that they couldn't afford. Yeah. Like the cheapest ticket was like $400. These are like college students.
I kept looking at your lovely nails and getting jealous.
It was awful. It was really awful to watch because these people are so invested that it's for some of them, it's almost like a religion to them.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm no way being disparaging. They are just, it's part of their personality, and they've been a fan for years. And people were in the queue for 5 hours on Ticketmaster. People took time off work, people took time off college, off school, etc. Right? And then when they eventually got into like the ticket buying bit of Ticketmaster, they could see these tickets disappearing in front of their eyes, and they panicked and ended up spending way too much than they wanted to, for, in some circumstances, really, really bad seats. And have you ever heard of dynamic pricing?
Yeah, but explain it to me.
So dynamic, I didn't know what it was, but dynamic pricing is where you often see it in hotel rooms, where it's like supply and demand. So if you've got like the Olympics happening in that city, dynamic pricing will mean that that room in the Premier Inn might be 3 times as much as it would be normally, right? Yeah. But the dynamic pricing was turned on for these Ticketmaster tickets. So if you can imagine, you've got unprecedented demand, you've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people trying to buy, and these tickets were just going up and up and up and up and up in price, right? So lots of people gave up. Then they had like another sale yesterday for people that were Capital One customers, and they had the same experience. And then general sale goes on sale Friday, so tomorrow, because we're recording this on Thursday. And then what happens is, whilst these people are still in the queue, other people have noticed on StubHub, which is a ticket reselling site, that there's Taylor Swift tickets that had been bought in that sale. One was going for $50,000, right? It is remarkable. And I was watching this, obviously, from the UK going, oh my God, like I have never seen anything like, even Take That tickets when Take That were massive. Never seen anything like this before. So obviously, because the Taylor Swift fans are so invested, they've switched. And who do we think they've turned on? Taylor Swift.
Have they?
And now, not all of them, a lot of them have suddenly realized, and this is what I want to talk about, is that Taylor Swift is there to make money. And one thing that really, this one woman I was watching on TikTok was bereft. That's the only way. She was so distraught. She said she's been saving up for this for about 16 years. She's never been able to afford Taylor Swift tickets. Now she's blah, 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 she can. She didn't get tickets. And she was saying things like, Taylor Swift and her albums have been like a support to me, sort of a therapy really, throughout a lot of really bad stuff that happened. And I thought Taylor was my friend. And I was like, And there's this thing called parasocial relationships, where you've got a celebrity, Slash or someone like that you know a lot about as a fan or someone who follows them, but they have no idea that you exist.
Don't say these words.
Isn't it awful? Like, so I, as a fan of, like, let's say, Mark Owen, right? I don't know a lot about Mark Owen, really, but I know more about Mark Owen than Mark Owen knows about me.
That's what you think. Like, we got to get on the Teen Tom wagon.
So a lot of these fans, and I feel awful for them, have had this moment in time, quite traumatic, when they've realised that dynamic pricing was put on, which meant that most of them were priced out of a ticket. Some of them panicked and bought a ticket that they couldn't afford and are now in debt that they can't afford. And they've suddenly realised that it's kind of all about the money. And Taylor Swift, while she does care about her fans, I think it's like...
I have questions though.
Yeah.
How much would she... I don't know. Bearing in mind, I used to work for Ticketmaster, but only Intel Records is their like Ticketmaster hub. But if a venue is selling tickets through a ticketing website, then she would have to say, I don't know how much of a say she has.
I don't know. What I can gather, she had the opportunity to turn dynamic pricing off.
You think she did?
That's what I can gather.
I think that's up to her.
Or her team, you know.
I think that's up to the venue or the ticket sellers. I don't think that's up to her. I think obviously if you are Taylor Swift, you have the power to say, I will not do this if dynamic pricing is turned on. But obviously, if she didn't know it was happening, I'm being devil's advocate here, she could have completely known it was happening. Then she can't go back and say, those of you, do you know what I mean, now switch it off and start again, because some people will have got the tickets.
It was just very upsetting to see people who, because music is a very personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is. That's the whole thing about good songwriters, is, you know, making it feel like you are either speaking to the person listening, or you are able to vocalize a feeling that someone else is feeling. So I'm not a big Florence and the Machine fan, although I did see her, I stood next to her while she was singing at Jules Holland, because I was with a client who was going
very
on.
tall.
Very tall, but I was with a client, so I had to be like right up, and there was Beth Ditto and Florence and the Machine, and Beth Ditto's got a very pretty voice, but then Florence started singing and it was like awe-inspiring. So she's got a very good voice, but it's not really my kind of music. But her song Shake It Out is literally, if I could vocalize some feelings, and I'm like, that is a talent. If you can do that, I think you forget how, for that person, for that, you know, single mum through lockdown who's got earbuds in to get some peace, that is your adult, that is your person vocalizing how you feel. That is also helping an emotional release in some way. And I think it's probably quite easy to forget that power, especially with Taylor Swift, because everywhere I turn, Anti-Hero is playing. You know, there's a lot of TikToks about it and people doing funny stuff. So everywhere I turn, I'm hearing that song. She's very clever in the way she does her music, because that something came on the other day. Trouble came on the other day, and it made me think about it, because obviously you'd been banging on about Taylor Swift, and I was like, oh, she's clever because she switches it. So like, she's empowering because she switches the narrative. So the whole point of Trouble is, it's my fault because I knew you were trouble. I knew you were. I'm not singing a love song about how you ditched me and you're mean. I'm singing a love song about, I'm upset, but I knew what I was getting myself in for. And it's the same with Anti-Hero, where it's like, yeah, I'm self-sabotaging. And that's so clever because that speaks to so many people. And I think that must be a huge responsibility.
So to conclude this part of the podcast, I shall not be trying to get Taylor Swift tickets. I'm not that much of a fan. I would much rather leave it to the real fans for the UK. Like, seriously, it's
you know what? It's really funny that you were talking about this, because I saw an interview with Kurt Cobain the other day. Obviously not from the other day, but they were told how much another band charged for their tickets. I can't remember who the other band were, but yeah, the interviewer was like, you know, it might have been someone like Madonna. You know how much Madonna's charging for her ticket? And it was something like $70. And all three of them are like, what? That's how much they're per person? Because for them, it's like, we want people to come and see us who want to come and see us. And obviously it's different if you're a grunge band, because grungy sort of people want to go and see you. But it's the same as you were saying at the beginning about Taylor Swift. Like, there's lots of students and younger people, and her audience is probably made up of a lot of people who are vulnerable or who are needing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people used her albums as like some sort of therapy, and it was really upsetting to watch. It was just fascinating, but God, upsetting to see this one woman. I was watching this live, and this woman was clicking. She was clicking so fast, and she was like, the tickets. And she was just trying to get tickets for her daughter for Christmas. She was like, the tickets are going before my eyes. They're literally disappearing, because she had like this diagram of the stadium, and like all the little blue dots for available tickets were just disappearing. And then she was, oh, 2 tickets. And she was like, they're $3,000 for the pair. Can I afford it? Can I afford it? And she got someone behind her going, just buy them. And she just bought them. And then she was just sat there going, I don't have that money. I mean, obviously it got taken off the credit card, but there is a good thing that came out of this story. I'm watching these people on the live, and I'm thinking, I wonder what would happen if I just trotted over to ticketmaster.co.uk. Because last Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that I reminded you all to go online and get Peter Kay tickets. Did any of you get tickets? Did you get tickets, Chippy?
No.
So I forgot, right? And then I remembered at like 11:30. I was like, shit, everybody get your laptops out. So me and Mike had the laptops out, and we joined, and he was 250,000 in the queue. And I was like, I thought he said 2,500. I was like, oh, it's not bad, 2,500. He was like, add a 0 or 2. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was like 260,000. By the time we got there was literally no seats. However, last night I just happened to log on, went on to one night, the first night of the O2, the whole stadium was greyed out, apart from 2 little seats. I mean, they're not great, but it doesn't matter. You only need to use your ears. He's only going to be coming in your ears. He's not going to, you don't need anything visual, right? And I'm like, press on that, see what happens. And he was like, we've added them to your cart. And I'm like, I'll just buy that, see what happens. Fully expecting to get thrown out, saying this was an error. And it's like, congratulations. And I was like, oh. And immediately on the voice notes, Chippy's like, so what? And Chippy's like, so what I'm hearing is you got 2 tickets. And I'm like, yes, but it's an anniversary present for Mike. She's like, I don't care.
It's not my fault that you bought me Peter Kay tickets on your anniversary. Take that up with Mike. What I'm hearing there is work Christmas event.
What I'm saying is, everybody, I reckon there's going to be, because they were resale tickets. So I reckon a lot of people will have done what the Taylor Swift fans did, panicked and bought some, maybe on multiple laptops, and had additional tickets. I reckon that a lot more are going to come up. So don't panic.
I don't know if there's a better way to do it, because she can't tour forever. Like,
no.
You think how many fans she has? Like, okay, so this is her North American tour. So if you think about how many Taylor Swift fans there are in North America and how many venues there are, like, she would have to do probably a year of back-to-back touring.
Or a residency somewhere.
Well, she'd have to do residencies in every state for everyone to see it. So it's so difficult, because how do you, if you do a sort of lucky dip, that's not fair.
I mean, all fair play to her. Fair play for her to like get. I think my theory is this is going to be her final tour, because she's 32. I reckon she's going to get married and have babies. Not forever, but for a while, because it's her Eras tour, isn't it? So that she's combining all of her albums into one tour. I mean, what does that say?
But also, my friends in the music industry, I didn't really realise until COVID hit, touring's where you make your money.
Yeah, like it's fine, go and make your money. But what I felt sorry for was these people who were like knee deep in this parasocial relationship, who have put Taylor Swift on this massive pedestal. She's just a person, she's a woman. Like, she's telling us all about her flaws in all of her latest songs, but yet everyone's just like, oh my God, she's amazing. And then when they feel let down by her, interestingly, immediately turn. And I think it's a real, such a natural human reaction, because that is what we do to anyone in our life. Friends, if our friends let you down like badly, you're like, well, you're not my friend anymore, so I don't want you in my life. And I just think it's a really, really narrow tightrope that these people have to tread. It must be really, really difficult, really difficult.
And I think the dynamic pricing thing, I agree, that seems unethical to me. There should be a standard ticket price. Boom, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just like this whole different world out there, like fans.
That being how they make their money, you can still be like, right, I need to make X amount. And obviously Taylor Swift, her albums sell incredibly well. So she has got other forms of income. It's not her. But you can still have someone who does the maths, who's going to be like, right, to pay for the tour, pay for tour buses, stage stuff, all the tour crew, the tickets need to be, and to make a profit for Taylor, the tickets need to be X amount, and that should be the price of the tickets.
I agree.
Because otherwise, because I think someone like Ticketmaster will probably have a very clever laundrette who will tell us this, but they'll have a percentage of sales. So that's what I mean about the dynamic pricing. I don't think being in control of Taylor Swift, because they'll be like, well, we take 15% of sales, so it's in their interest to suddenly sell a ticket for $3,000.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And the other question I had, right, was what happens, because this happens all the time, there's a lot of dates there. What happens if she gets sick, right? And you're a fan, and like your night's coming up, and like, oh my God, I'm so excited, and you've paid $3,000, whatever. That emotional investment, so all of a sudden, like what Adele did, like cancelled her tour. Say, sorry, we've had to cancel tonight, Taylor's got laryngitis. What happens? Do you get given another day?
Yeah. You get the opportunity to get a refund, or you get to, your ticket is valid for the next date when they reschedule. But that's quite often, like Tom Petty, my fave, died from accidental drug overdose. But yeah, do you not remember? I went into a decline. He died October 2019. Right, we know how rare that is. And I was really cross because I wanted to go and see him at Play, but Jack was 2 weeks old, and I was like, oh, I don't know that I'll feel like going. I'll go next time. Dead 2 months later. Anyway, he died of an accidental drug overdose because he was on tour with a broken hip or broken pelvis.
Oh my God.
And so he was taking prescription medication because he had a fucking broken hip and was going on stage every night. And he was, so he was taking that, and he was taking things to help him sleep, and what a lot of people don't realize is when people die of an overdose of that, it's not they took one too many, it's that it builds up in your system, and you don't get told that by your doctor. So if you're taking these hardcore painkillers, even if you're taking them as prescribed, if you're abusing them, taking more than you, for longer than you should do, it builds up in your system. So then one day it's done. But that's because you get into this thing where you're doing what you love. It's the thing that makes you feel great. people have paid to see you, they've spent their hard-earned money to see you play, and you don't want to let them down. And so a lot of musicians get themselves into a really bad physical state because, like, think of all the times since the kids have gone back to school that you felt a bit rubbish. Do you know what I mean? Like, I constantly feel like I'm getting a cold or just a bit like done in by the end of the day. So you can see why it happens, because you just suddenly got this weight of responsibility of like, and it often, obviously it depends on the person, but if you're really in tune with your fans and like emotionally in tune with your fans, you will be like, that student has just spent their student loan, which they're going to be paying back until they're 40, on tickets to see me. So I can either cancel this because of my broken hip, or I can take a fuck ton of painkillers and get on stage and do it. Do you know what I mean? I think it is a very difficult, I think it's overlooked at how difficult.
Yeah, and it sort of makes you sort of, oh, I'd hate that. I'd hate to have that weight of
responsibility. Yeah, because you feel responsible. Let's bring it back to Gemma. But you, whenever we've had business meetings, or when you were developing the app and you were in an app hole, or when you were redoing the website or writing a book or whatever, you were always very much like, I always want the printables to be for free. I always want there to be something there for somebody who can't afford the app, or who is in a desperate position and needs help now. You've always been very much like that. I want, if you do an ad, if you do a sponsored post, there have been times when we've been approached and you've been like, but that I would never use that, or that's just unaffordable to, do you know what I mean? I feel like you are very ethically responsible, but it's in a completely different field. You're creating content.
Yeah, but then like magnify that out like 55,000 times.
But what I mean is you're creating, yeah, but you're creating content, which obviously is you focused, but quite often you can do it. Like if you've been ill, you've messaged me and been like, I'm in bed, but I'm just, and it will be doing something from your bed, right? You're not having to go on stage.
No.
And that's the thing, is that I know that you feel really responsible doing what you do, but yeah, magnifying that by,
if I was Taylor Swift, I would already be having anxiety about how I cannot get sick for the next 2 years.
Yeah, but also like, imagine you've gone from, when did she release her album? 2 weeks ago?
21st of October.
All right. Going from that, where it's, 30-something mother in Kent.
Yeah, but I stream it for free on Spotify.
But she still makes money from that.
Yeah.
Contemplating not going to sleep because she wants to be there when the album drops, and like, you were really excited about it.
Yeah, and it was such an amazing thing to be part of, because I'd never experienced anything like that. Even like with Take That, just watching it was just like,
yeah. And there is something about Taylor Swift where you're like, where if I had daughters, I'd obviously want them to be into pink. I love pink, but like, for me, she is great. She always looks horrified if interviewers ask her about her love life. She's always like, no, I'm here with my friends. Like, I love that. She's always very much like, no, I'm hanging out with my female friends. Why would I care what boys think I look like? Or, do you know what I mean? And I think that's a very positive image. But also, she must now be, like, having been everyone on social media talking about your album launch, everyone on social media playing anti-hero and looking at your videos and thinking you're amazing, to now having those people crying because they've spent their children's college fees on shit Taylor Swift tickets.
Yeah, one woman was going, wedding fund, Taylor tickets, because that's how much money she was.
Yeah. And also, I'm all for spending money on experiences.
Yeah, I am too.
And some of my best fun has been at gigs, but also I go to gigs. But like, okay, this is a very good example. When I was about 2 weeks off having Jack, Guns N' Roses played in London, and because Ned had been early, with the subsequent 2 babies, the hospital, the midwives and I were a bit like, let's just be ready in case the next ones come early. And Jim hadn't been early, but with the third one, we were like, let's just, be sensible, because you just don't know. And it was in the O2, which is the other side of London for me. It was physically too big to be able to drive my car. So I was like, right, realistically, I'm going to have to go on the tube across London to the O2. Should be about an hour and a half plus for me. On public transport, on my own, because the tickets were 150 quid. And I could not afford 150 quid on a Guns N' Roses ticket. And let alone 300 quid for my husband to come. So for a while, Joe was like, right, you'll probably know people there. So who do we know who's going? Because you're just going to have to get a friend of yours, and bearing in mind all my friends that were going were boys, that is essentially going to have to be responsible for getting you to the hospital if you go into labour. And then eventually I was like, yes, because they'll have spent 150 quid on a ticket and then they'll have to miss it to take me to fucking hospital. Like, I can't. So I didn't go, but I was just like, I got Use Your Illusion 2 for Christmas when I was 9. And that is how long I've loved Slash for. I just remember that was it as far as I was concerned. I loved it. I loved that album, still love that album. And part of me was really disappointed because I was like, I'm about to have my third baby. Logistically, it's dodgy and that's not their fault. But part of the reason the logistics is difficult is I can't spend 300 quid on gig tickets. It's just not. And also, I think the thing that Nirvana were always very keen on, they were like, if your tickets are that expensive, who have you got coming? No. If your tickets are $3,000 a go, then the first people to buy them are going to maybe be people who are not your chosen demographic.
Or corporate.
Yeah, it's going to be corporate. And it's just not, do you know what I mean? I just think that's very questionable. And obviously corporate people can still buy it if they're 20 quid a ticket. But you're just calling out a whole load of people.
Do you think Peter Kay's got anxiety? Because he's not toured for 12 years. Do you reckon he's in bed going, well, I'm just not funny anymore?
He's a naturally funny man.
But I've got anxiety for him.
You must. It was so funny. I came back from Dawn French. It was quite unlike me, but also made me really laugh because it's quite like something my husband would say. I came back from seeing Dawn French and I love Dawn French, but I think I laughed out loud once. French and Saunders make me cry laughing, but I'm quite hard, I'm quite a niche humor anyway. But I came back and Joe's like, how was it? And I was like, it was really good. It was really good. And he said, okay. And I said, I just don't think I've used my humor enough in life. I think I should have. I feel like I should have done something with my humor, Joe. Then I followed that thought through and was like, oh, well, you could do stand up. And I was like, fuck, that sounds like the worst.
Oh, do it. It. Oh.
Can you imagine?
Me and the Lord Rex will all come to your shows. We'll be like, woo.
Can you imagine? I'm not funny enough to do stand up for a start, but I think there must be. I'd rather sing. Do you know what I mean? Trying to be funny and failing. So I'm sure that as any comedian, you've always got to have that bit, even if you're Peter Kay, even if you're Michael McIntyre, or anyone that can sell out big tickets. Oh, it must be that. And that was what stopped it for me, because I was like, no.
Yeah, the anxiety, just like, I've got to make 50,000 people laugh tonight.
I've got to make one person, like, can you just imagine in a small,
oh, that's even worse,
night with like 10 people who are like,
anxiety dream, that, isn't it? Just like,
it is
in front of everyone and just trying to make them laugh.
Oh, it is. It's like an anxiety dream on stage at a comedy night. The spotlight's on you.
What has been your positive of the week?
Oh, okay. I have a positive of the week. It's a warm, fuzzy positive, which is not like me.
Oh.
But when I moved, buckle up, it's not a short story. When we moved, my eldest, as we know, found it the hardest, and he was really betrayed by our choice, basically, because he loved his school and his friends and his house and being a Londoner and all of that. And I remember going up, we've got a playing field in the village, and Ned is very into Buddhism and meditation and making spells and all of that. And we were on the rec, as it's called, and we were talking about I was like, but we'll have more opportunities to do things now that you want to do and all of that. And he's like, and then he saw people doing karate in the parish hall, and he was like, oh, they're doing karate. And I thought, right, I'm going to look on I'm going to detect a bit and go into the parish thing and see who's booked, and then go and so I found out it was a martial arts academy that do karate. So Ned started doing karate. He does gradings. He loved it. I messaged you going,
what is this fresh hell?
Yeah, what is this fresh hell? I'm now a karate. I thought it was like 10 minutes. I thought they got graded individually. Then I sat down next to a mum who had like coffee and snacks. I was like,
you only make that mistake one time.
Next time I was the mum with coffee and snacks. And he loved it, and it really worked for him because obviously he's into the Buddhist spiritual side. So there's a lot of that in karate. So he loved it. And then about a month ago, Jack was like, I want to do karate. So Jack started. Nothing cuter than a tiny chap in his karate kit with his little hat. Yeah. Yeah. So they were doing it, and I said to Jim, do you want to do karate? No, didn't want to do it. And we've been going through stuff at school with Jim and all of that neurodivergent stuff, and it's been weighing really heavily on me, because I was talking to my friend about it yesterday, and I was like, your natural instinct as a mum is to fix things, and I can't fix this. And I experienced myself what he's experiencing, and I still don't have the answer. So, and then one day he was like, oh, I'd like to try kickboxing, which the same people do, but the next night. And so
it's not. I think it's the same. Does it begin with an S?
No.
Oh.
Full Marks Martial Arts Academy. It's very local.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was like, okay, well, so I emailed the lady and said, can he do a trial day? And he loved it. And I watched him. And once your kids go to school, like if you've been taking them to play groups or play dates or whatever, you observe your child. But once they're at school, there's a whole load of things that you don't observe them doing. So I was like, okay, I haven't seen him in this kind of setting before. And he does stand out as being unusual, but they are so lovely with him. He stands out as being unusual. Nobody batted an eyelash. Nobody looked at him.
Do you know what? I'm going to just jump in for a second. Yeah. I think our generation, people, if you were in any way different, you were, But I think it's so much better now. It's so much better on the whole.
The lady who runs it, she's got 4 kids. One of hers has ADHD. He's teenagers, that she's got teenagers. So she really understands it. And she was like, we've got loads of every different kind of kid comes here.
Yeah.
And kids nowadays are definitely more, we used to not, the school that I went to was not accessible for anyone who was disabled, for example.
No, because we didn't know anything. We didn't know.
Problem with the school, that was just accepted that school was not accessible. Whereas now schools have to be accessible. Everyone of every background, every ability is together, and that's great. But it was just seeing him. And so afterwards I was like, did you like it? Do you want to join up? And he's like, yeah, I want to join up. And I think partly for him, it's doing something different to his brothers, and something on his own. But I was saying to the lady, because they volunteer, everyone's a volunteer that does it. And I was like, I can't believe you do 5 nights a week from 4 till 4:30 till 9, 5 nights a week as a volunteer.
Right.
Yeah. And she was like, yeah, it's a lot, it's exhausting. But your getting an email like that makes it all different, because I'd sent her an email saying, I cannot, for a child that stands out in social situations, as a mother, you always almost wish they wouldn't. Obviously you want your kid to stand out in some ways, but it becomes really obvious, and you're like, oh, I just want to make it easier for you. I just want to make life easier for you. And I was like, just seeing him feeling like part of a group and part of a community and being valued for who he is just made me feel so much better, because he takes very much responsibility for his wins and for that kind of thing. So he doesn't want to play football in a team, because if someone mispasses something to him, it's going to send him into a fury. He cannot deal with that. So group stuff is really difficult, but this is just so nice. And it just made me have this feeling of like, no way in London would I have been able to afford for 3 of them to do a weekly class. And they do swimming. And
Hold on a minute. Why aren't these people getting paid to run it if you're paying for them to go?
I'm paying for them to go for venue hire.
Right. Okay. I just thought that this is this big company taking the money and making volunteers work.
No. The volunteers take the money. He takes the money. She hires the space. He gets all the equipment. So they have like all the proper equipment. They do all the gradings, and yeah, it was so nice. And I just thought that is partly why we moved, to give them that opportunity. And it just felt really nice. So that's my positive of the week. I'll stop babbling on about it now. What's your positive of the week? Are you taking a photograph of it?
Well, I can't make my animals my positive every single week. My positive of the week is very similar, in as much as that I am watching Thomas, my eldest, develop in front of my eyes. He had his first 6th form parents' evening, and Mike and I, it was on Zoom. Mike and I were quite nervous. We've typically always been challenging parents' evenings. I
love that Derek is so involved, can I just say?
And his PE teacher made me cry.
I loved that you picked him PE. When your child's away, pick them PE.
She was like, I don't recognise Thomas. He's turned over such a new leaf. She said he's helping out with the younger kids. He wants to be head boy. And like last night, he's now got a second job. He's now the resident babysitter for the people that live over the road. He's like, I'm going to go and babysit. He's babysitting again on Friday. He's babysitting again in 2 weeks' time. And I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? It's happening. Nobody panic. It's happening. It's happening.
It is that thing though of I think I said it last week. I don't know if I did, but I'd been speaking to the school about CAMS and all of that special educational needs stuff. And she'd said to me in a really patronising way, we're not worried about him.
Yeah, it is really patronising.
And I said, I'm not worried about him, but I'm worried about him at school. And I think the problem with school is, for lots of kids, they just breeze through it and it's fine. But for lots of kids, certain settings just don't work. And I wonder if that bit, feeling a bit more grown up and having fewer, like focusing on at least 2 things that he genuinely wants to do.
Yeah.
Rather than having to learn of stuff that you don't necessarily, which obviously is very useful, but that you don't feel passionate about. And some people can just do it and move on. But for him, maybe it was just like, I need that bit of responsibility. And because also it must be very difficult for Thomas, because people must treat him like an adult.
Well, because he's taller. Yeah. But yeah, I was just like, oh my God, I was so nervous at that parents' evening. And I was just like, and they were all like, it was just like, and I couldn't, normally people try to be really cool going, oh yeah. I'm like, and I just went, I'm so sorry. I'm going to make me cry. I'm like, you're going to have to take over. I said, yes, so okay, that's great. So is there anything we need to be doing? And what about this? He went fully practical, and I was going, oh. Yes. And the teacher actually said, which just set me over the edge. This did. It was just game over. It's kids like Tom that make me do the job I do. Oh. And I was just like,
oh, that, see, and that, yeah. And also that's so nice, because he's, I mean, how, for me, Thomas's secondary school went very quickly.
Yes, it did.
And then A-levels will be done, and then they're an adult.
And he's gone.
Yeah, and that...
He's like, and he said to me, I can't wait to move out at 18. He said, does that upset you? And I was like, well, actually, yes, but I feel like I've done something right. That you're excited about starting your life and being independent. So obviously it will be awful. It's also quite exciting. And I want them to go and like experience stuff.
Yeah.
Look at us, like proud
parents. I'm proud because my weird child has found somewhere to be weird with other people.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we shall speak to you all next week. Say goodbye, Chippy.
Bye-bye.